Welcome to part 2 of this Akai repair, and I really want to get this screen sorted out, and you can splash £100 in it and get a nice one, or as I learnt from Take the Fear Out the Gear,
I'd have Take the Fear Out the Gear with me, Jason Bangers.
And me, Mr. Chumley Warner.
and I have to confess that the other night I was about to go to bed and I measured across the EL panel and I measured a 130 volt signal there. So after watching their video, their link was still active, so I ordered this panel there and then, and I was really impressed with how quickly it came. And if I can just get it out without breaking it, there we have a nice new EL panel. Not sure which side lights up, and this side, it's got a few creases in it. Well, about that later. And there's a sticker here, so I presume that this is the back side. So we're going to have to just take these knobs off, and you can see how dead the machine looks even though it's on. You can see the red LED there, so bearing in mind that this is all live at the moment, I'm just going to pull this away so we can gain access to the two terminals I was probing the other night. Right, so there we are. There's two connections. So if we're just going to measure volts AC across these pins, we can see it's measuring 130 volts. And if we switch that to frequency mode, and then it's reading about 677 hertz. Not sure what it should be, but it's good enough for rock and roll. So now everything is disconnected, all the powers are turned off and disconnected, because you don't want to be cutting these because they're 130 volts. And we'll just cut them out of the way. I'll just move this cable out of the way for the moment. And if you try and pull this old EL panel out, it's actually stuck down, but have no fear, Mr. Chumley Warner realised that you could actually fit the new EL panel in that gap. So I'm just going to tape this off just to be sure nothing comes in contact with the old EL panel connections. There we go. And it says on the website these are highly durable, so we're putting it to the test now, and we can manhandle this in. Look at that, perfect. And all I had to do was take this one knob off the front. I'm going to have to cut down those wires. So I've cut down the wires and tin them. I'm just going to tin these wires here. You might end up having to take off the old tab because they'll be stuck on the end of them. And in case I've got it round the right way, I'm just going to put some heat shrink just in case. Okay, the moment of truth. Let's turn it on. Yes, I got the panel around the right way. Happy days. And we can adjust the contrast. So I think that's about as good as it's going to get, really. If you're going to throw £100 at it, you could get one of these new fancy pants screens, which are really crisp. And if you're going to work on it a lot, then it's highly recommended. So let's just tidy up what we've done here. So I'm just going to add another little bit of tape here, A, to stop the EL panel from moving, and B, just to cover those connections as well. And then I'm just going to put the front panel back on, and we'll see if we've broken anything yet. Awesome. And what I noticed was, without the floppy disk in, you can see here that it's running version 1 of the operating system. And if we put the disk in the system and turn it back on, you can see it loads off the disk, and now it's 4.4, which is kind of cool. So at least you know the disc is working.
I'll tell you though, it's one little bit of advice that Miss Chamley didn't mention in any of those videos, which I think we ought to say. When you take that front panel off, which has got your plastic or perspex bit of glass on it, which goes in front of the screen, get yourself a pair of wipes, what you clean your glasses with or something.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And give it a clean before putting it back on, because, you know, chances are you'll never take that front panel off again, so why not?
All right, Jason Bangers, you're right. Screens can be the bane of everyone's life with old equipment. This is actually the third screen I put into my DX7, and just below that I have my trusty DMX, and I was lucky enough to be around when they were producing these screens after my original one broke. So that looks really nice. And of course my sample of choice is the Kurzweil, where I spent £100 to get a really nice screen and this SCSI-to-SD card. Speaking of which, we need to check out this SCSI card. It was measuring 22 ohms, and I found this capacitor which looked really dodgy under the microscope. You couldn't clean that off in any way. And this capacitor isn't actually connected to anything. Maybe it doubles up to the other chip on the board, but here it seems to be connected to an unpopulated IC. So we're going to have to take that out and see if it makes any difference. So there's nothing really to see. This chip looks really good and all legs, except this one here, which looks kind of not as nice as the others, but there's no shorts or anything. So nothing that can create my 22 ohms I'm worried about. So let's take that cap out and see what happens. Well, I'm measuring this out of circuit and I can't get any resistor readings at all. Yeah, I'm not using this fluke meter, I'm using my Keithley up there. But yeah, no resistance readings at all. And if you measure the board, well, that says now 23 ohms. There's a slight change, but not what I was hoping for. Let's take the others out. So I've taken all the caps out now. So let's just measure that again, and still 23 ohms. So let's put new ones in. Oh well, show me didn't find anything obvious, although the card looks pretty now. We'll have to give it a go in a controlled way when we try and plug it all back together. And I guess it'd be interesting if we actually check the measurements of these caps. So this is the one that looked the worst. 11 nanofarads. It should be 10. So that's measures pretty good. We have another one. 12 nanofarads. Yeah, pretty good. And the third one. 10 nanofarads. 11. Yeah. They all measure really good. So the caps weren't the problem. So I'm not quite sure. We'll see what happens when we plug it in. So the Akai here has a number of slots. This first top one is for the SCSI card. Then there's GB option connections, which I'm not entirely sure what they're used for, although the manual does say for more RAM. But then we do have the sound memory slots, 3, 2, 1 and 0 down here. So yeah, very interesting. So as my old power supplies are capped at 2 amps, I've had to buy this extra power supply. That can go up to 5 amps. I've set the current limit to 3 amps. So at least now we can carry on and slowly connect things to the Akai. So we're going to put the first memory card in. And then I have to turn both on at the same time. And we can see it's accessing the floppy. And after it accessed the floppy, it dropped down to 1 amp. So when we see the floppy light go out. Okay, yeah, so that's actually measuring quite the same as my other power supply. It's a good start. And the memory's saying about 148,000 free. So let's now switch it off. And we'll add a second RAM card. Make sure it's in straight as you push it in so you don't bend any of the pins. And this time, no, I'll leave the floppy out at the minute. My old power supply couldn't even boot this up with one extra RAM card. This seems to be doing just fine. And then we can see 295,000. Okay, turn that off. Let's put the floppy disk in and see what happens to the current draw. Seems to peak about 1.7. My bench power supply wasn't too happy with that. And once the disk stops loading, it went down to 1.5 amps. Okay, let's add in. We'll keep the disc in there. Might as well. In for penny, in for pound. So we'll add in a third RAM board. Make sure they're seated correctly. And let's turn it on. It's well over 2 amps now. Especially when the floppy's working. And when the floppy's finished, .9 amps. And we can see the RAM's increase. I don't know how to say that number. I'll just switch it off. Put the fourth card in. This is going well so far. Because at least if this has a full set of RAM, which makes it more desirable. Okay, let's turn that on. 2.6. And then when the floppy stops, settles down to 2.4. And even more RAM. And if I just turn them both on quickly, as it loads the 4.4 operating system, it then tells us that we have 4 megahertz fitted. So that's great. Everything's working now. Let's turn it off. And now I'm going to try and plug it in with just one memory card and the SCSI card and see what current it draws. And if it's scary, then we know there's a problem with the SCSI card. If it measures okay, then we'll carry on adding RAM cards and see what happens. Okay, so let's turn it on. Well, 1.4 amps. So yeah, nothing too scary though. I actually don't think there's anything wrong with the SCSI card. Definitely not shorting anything out, so that's great news. Let's turn it off. And let's add in another RAM card. and see how far we can go. And turn it on. It didn't even quite touch 2 amps there. And when the floppy stops, down to 1.7. Okay, let's turn that off. Let's add a third RAM card. It's exciting. Push that in, and we'll turn it on. Okay, still under 3 amps. And when the floppy stops, it settles down to 2.1 amps. Okay, let's go for broke. Let's add the final RAM card. Carefully put that in. Make sure everything's seated correctly. Okay, let's see what happens. Oh, can you see that? It flipped to constant current mode. That means it went over the 3 amps briefly. But it is rated on the fuse at 3.16. So let's just type that into the current limiting here. 3.16. And let's try that again. Keep an eye out for any red light there. No, so that fuse is rated quite tightly to the maximum draw current. So if you're going to replace the 5-volt power supply, definitely put a 3.16 amp fuse in there. Well, that's great. I think we're in the position now to order a 5-volt power supply because we know everything's going to work with it great. So catch me next time, and we'll put the 5-volt power supply in.